Ever walk into a medieval cathedral, or even an old public library and feel something rise in your chest? A tightness mixed with wonder and a weird kind of homesickness you can't explain. No choir is singing, no tour guide is lecturing, yet the stone vaults and stained glass saints insist on meaning. You don't have to kneel or recite anything. The building does the talking. That feeling is soul, and the modern world quietly starves us of it. Most of what surrounds us, our furniture, our offices, our apps, even our daily routines, was engineered to be fast, cheap, and replaceable, not to carry spirit. We traded depth for efficiency and never bothered to read the return policy, and the bill shows up every night when we climb into bed and wonder why the day felt thin, even if it was packed to the ceiling with activity. Picture an 18th century cabinet maker fitting dovetails so tight a razor couldn't slip between them, then signing the drawer bottom in a looping hand no one would see unless the piece was dismantled. Or imagine a mason in the 1400s carving a gargoyle on a church he knew he'd never live to see finished. Money mattered, but not as much as belonging to a craft, to a story bigger than his pulse, to a future he'd never meet but believed deserved his hours. Those hours soaked into the object like wine into bread. You can still feel them today. They vibrate underneath the varnish like a low-frequency note. Stand beside that cabinet and you sense time pooling in the corners. Stand under that gargoyle and you sense the presence of hands that knew chisels the way you know a keyboard shortcut. Now, look at a glass office cube thrown up in 7 months, or a coffee table you assemble in 20 minutes and ditch before your next lease. Nothing in those objects whispers that somebody cared. They do their jobs and nothing more, which is exactly what the modern system prefers. Objects and workers that are predictable, interchangeable, and stripped of personality. When the environment is soulless, the people inside it quietly match. We clock in, stare at metrics, hit deadlines, clock out, sink into rectangles of distraction, rinse, repeat. We become players in a race no one remembers entering, where the only victory is permission to keep racing. You can hear echoes of this bargain in city skylines. Older neighborhoods stack brick on brick, each cornice and lintel fussed over by masons whose names never made the history books. Newer districts clone glass boxes that look impressive only if you fly past at freeway speed. Even airports used to hire muralists to paint myths across the walls. Now they rent LED walls to stream ad impressions on a loop. The message is clear. Movement first, meaning later, if there's time. Friedrich Nietzsche saw the early scaffolding of this shift in the late 1800s when he wrote, "God is dead." People quote that line like a mic drop, but he didn't mean it as a victory chant. He meant it as an autopsy, the shared story that once welded craftsmen, farmers, monks, and merchants into the same rhythm was collapsing, and nothing with equal heft was rising to replace it. Nietzsche warned that when collective meaning evaporates, most people drift into passive nihilism, scrolling before scrolls existed, while a smaller group will try to forge personal meaning with the intensity of blacksmiths forging swords. Fast forward 140 years, the communal beat is a faint metronome, and few of us have done blacksmith work, so we float. Corporations sense that vacancy and jam it with dopamine loops, microtransactions, and overnight shipping. They keep us stimulated enough to forget we're starving. If time feels quicker than it did for your grandparents, it isn't just that we're aging, it's that modern life compresses experience. A newsfeed can show you more tragedies before lunch than a villager in 1600 heard about in his lifetime. Each headline is processed for milliseconds. Depth demands lingering. Lingering is unprofitable, so the current speeds up another notch. Even friendships flatten into streaks and emojis. A friend's baby photo shows up between an ad for Bitcoin socks and an influencer's protein pancakes. Everything becomes scrollable, which means forgettable. The faster the input, The shallower the groove it leaves in memory, and the more the present feels like mush. Work mirrors this drift. We used to make things we could point to decades later. Now many of us generate spreadsheets, pitch decks, or code snippets that vanish into version control cemeteries the moment a sprint ends. Productivity gurus cheer that done is better than perfect, yet nothing ever feels done because releases, updates, and quarterly goals roll straight into the next sprint. We've optimized ourselves into a state of permanent beta, always improving, never arriving, rarely feeling. And the system loves it that way. Soulless output is predictable. Predictable output is easy to monetize. Keep people on a treadmill of micro achievements, and they won't pause long enough to ask why they're running. When meaning slips, competition fills the vacuum. Who's got the newest phone, the leanest macros, the most side hustle income? You can't win because the leaderboard resets daily, but you can burn plenty of life trying. So how do we smuggle soul back into daily existence without quitting civilization to raise goats on a mountain? Start by doing something gloriously inefficient. Bake bread that hogs your kitchen for 6 hours. Handwrite a love letter on real paper and mail it with a stamp. Sew a patch onto your jacket instead of buying a new one. None of these projects will impress the algorithm, and that's the point. Algorithms can't digest craftsmanship or slowness. They only measure clicks and speed. When you sit at a workbench shaping wood with hand tools, time goes thick and syrupy. The hours fuse with the object. When you light a candle, you poured yourself. The room admits an extra dimension. Visit spaces with echoes, old libraries where dust floats in sunbeams, botanical conservatories where plants sweat slowly under glass, even an abandoned rail tunnel if that's all your city offers. Leave the earbuds out and let silence claw at you. At first it's awkward, soon it feels like inhaling after years of shallow breaths. Cook with ingredients that require patience, sourdough that lives on your countertop, soup that simmers all afternoon. Your home will smell like a place where time moves in full sentences instead of push notifications. Keep rituals tiny and stubborn. One sentence in a journal at dawn. One row of knitting before bed. One stanza of poetry memorized while your tea steeps. The size means nothing. The repetition is everything. Repetition tells the nervous system this matters enough to protect. It's a small liturgy amid digital noise. After a month, those minutes feel heavier, like coins in your pocket. That weight is soul. Craft can be quiet defiance. When you sand wood until it's silk or tweak a chord until it stops buzzing, you're voting for depth over velocity. You're adding to the tiny stash of objects and moments in a world that trades them for speed. Algorithms can't index patience. Streaming platforms can't binge 40 hours of hand-sewn seams. Your slow work frustrates the metrics, and that's exactly why you should do it. Nietzsche's answer to the void wasn't to resurrect medieval religion. It was to forge values tough enough to withstand a world of flux. Values you live, not just tweet. Crafts, long walks, slow food, deep friendships. These are miniature cathedrals you build yourself. The roof might not scrape the clouds, but the brickwork is yours, and you can pray there even if you never bend a knee. Try this tonight. Pick one disposable task, ordering takeout, scrolling reels, impulse buying something cheap, and swap it for its slow, soulful counterpart. Cook pasta from scratch. Sketch your living room, even if you can't draw. Replace a broken zipper instead of trashing the jacket. You'll go to bed with tangible proof that your hours can solidify into something other than vapor. Do another small thing tomorrow. Sweep the stoop like it's a temple floor. Polish your grandfather's pocket knife. Read 3 dense pages that would confuse an algorithm. Let each action punch a pinhole in the speed balloon. Over weeks, the small holes add up, the pressure drops, and you can finally hear yourself think. Later, wander back into a grand old building and see if your body doesn't buzz a little louder than before. Stone will whisper, "This took lifetimes," and a steadier voice inside might answer, "I know, I've started counting my minutes too. That dialogue is soul talking to soul. Modern life can't mass produce it, and that's okay. It was never supposed to be a commodity. If anything here struck a chord, drop a comment about the slow ritual you're going to start. The stranger and smaller, the better, because efficiency experts roll their eyes at the exact things that wake us up. And if you want more stories about wrestling, meaning back from the speed cult, tap subscribe. The algorithm may be soulless, but the people sharing these moments don't have to be.